Hello, welcome to another edition of On the Spot. I'm Christopher Taylor of My Astro Chris, and you're back on the spot with me. So, welcome back, and we join us again here for another edition, about a 10 to 15 minute look at someone's chart, just for a brief introduction to astrology for this individual. And so, if you've been following me, I've been kind of picking on parts of people's charts that deal with the early cardinal signs. The early parts of the cardinal signs. The cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, and Libra. And I've been kind of picking on anyone with planets in the beginning of those signs. And today's no different. Today we actually have a 45-year-old female. She's a Capricorn sun. And we're actually going to focus right on that Capricorn sun because that sun for her lies at about 7 degrees Capricorn. It's a hot zone right now. And so we'll just kind of get into that. So this is one of those rare occasions where I'm actually focusing on the sun sign of the individual, but it's relative to where it is in her chart. And so with this individual, we can see her chart here. What we're going to focus on, like I said, is the sun in Capricorn over there on the left. All right, that's about 7 degrees Capricorn. And so it's also in the first house. And so this has some significance. So I want to talk about the significance of having the sun in the first house of the chart and how the planets are kind of actualizing this component of her at this time. Okay, so the first house is our house of personality. It's how we come across to the world. It's kind of the self in a lot of ways. And our culture is all about self-sacrifice and don't be selfish and don't put yourself above others and things like that. But when the sun is in the first house, there's a soul intention here to shine in some capacity, to be oneself, to be the one that other people look to as an example of how to utilize one's own skills for the betterment of others. So, the best thing you can do for the world is to figure out what your gifts are and to deliver them to the world. And that's what someone with sun in the first house is challenged to do. But it is a challenge in that throughout life, this person often will feel like, I have no freedom. And everyone else has more freedom than I do. It's this common sense that this person wants to actualize the self, but they feel almost like it's the last thing they're allowed to do. All right, so it becomes hard to establish the self, but that is the intention. And as a child, there would have been a strong intention to put the self forth, and that could have been squashed. And we're not going to get into the depth of the chart in that sense. We're going to keep it general. Just in terms of the sun in the first house, and go with that because it's this component of her, this soul intention to shine as herself, that is under duress right now, that is under transformation, under an actualization kind of a time period. And so we'll go back to about September of 2010. This is when a lot would have started for this individual. And so now we'll look back at the chart, and with the sun there on the left, and up top we have Saturn. Okay, Saturn, around September of 2010, crossed over into her 10th house. This is the Capricorn house in a lot of ways, and Saturn being the planet that rules Capricorn. So a big Capricorn theme going on there. And almost immediately after Saturn crossed into her 10th house, it started to form a square to her sun. And so September of 2010 would have been a particularly rough time for this individual. It would have been a time of realization in terms of how she holds herself back, how she prevents her own freedom. And this could have been manifested in a life experience where suddenly there's a responsibility to take on. Okay? And this can sometimes even be a death in the family, a death of a patriarch, a death of someone who is in charge. And this doesn't have to be a physical death, but it could be the departing of someone, some position, and forcing some sense of authority for herself onto herself. So it's a sense of, here's my authority for me, and I'm doing okay with my authority outside of me, and then whoosh, September 2010 comes around, and whoa, I've got to take care of me, and I've got to be in charge of me. And that's the kind of realization that would have happened around that time. And so she needed that to wake up in a lot of ways. And so now we're in this time period in late February, early March. Today is February 28th, 2011. So the last week or so of February, first week or so of March, we're in a particularly potent zone where, now if you look at the chart here, where Pluto and Jupiter down below, Pluto right on her sun. These two planets are in a square. They've been squaring each other since the summertime, summer of 2010, but now this square is making its final pass with each other, and it's happening right at 7 degrees of Capricorn and Aries. And so this individual in particular is really feeling this. And the Plutonian part of this, Pluto on her sun, this is the start of a 2-year transit, a 2-year period of self-actualization, that now I must come into me. I must be who I aimed to be from the beginning. And with Jupiter there's some support. There's a sense of Jupiter crossing the 4th house and lending support. There could be family support of some kind where we're saying, yes, now you're in charge. And we support that you are in charge of you, or possibly even in charge of more than just herself at this point. But there is a sense of having an overwhelming increase in responsibility for self. And so there's a self-actualization occurring. And it harks back to what occurred in September. The realizations that occurred in September right now, late February, early March, are a time to come into that in some way. The Jupiter part of this will be over by mid-March. It'll just be a thing of the past. It's like this point is bringing things in, bringing in the energy. And then the Plutonian aspect will last all the way through 2011 and all the way through the end of 2012 even. So that's going to be a 2-year thing for her, of a period of real deep actualization. And on the heels of this then, so Pluto will be in the background kind of working on this self-actualization throughout the rest of this year, like we said. When we get into the spring of 2012, that's when the planet Uranus, down at the bottom of the chart, will cross over her 4th house and start the square with Pluto. So Uranus and Pluto will be squaring each other throughout 2012, actually all the way until 2015. But as far as this individual is concerned, this square, she'll feel it mostly from the spring of 2012 right on through the spring of 2013. So for about a year, with the winter and spring of 2013 feeling the let up from Pluto a little bit, and just dealing with the Uranian aspect of that. And the Uranian aspect of that, so the mid to later portion of 2012 and right into the beginning of 2013, that's going to be a lot of opportunities for this individual to express themselves in their unique, authentic way. All right, so no more boxing the self in. No more saying, these are my limits. And a sense of limitlessness comes to the fore in this way. So it's kind of a process of September 2010, the realization of how this individual blocks herself. What are the blocks of the self? How is the individual outsourcing their authority? And who is the true authority for this individual, which is the self. And then this time period, the awakening of, okay, it's time to take charge of myself. Okay, right here in February, March. And then that carries itself all the way through 2011 into 2012, when finally there's a sense of authentic expression that comes out through the end of 2012 into 2013 with the Uranian aspect. So that's the purpose of this overall few-year period that she'll be going through, this kind of 2 to 3 year period that we've discussed. And it all has to do with her recognizing self-actualization, recognizing I'm here for me, and what I have is good for all. And that is a new paradigm that she's going to be working with. By the middle of 2013, she'll be comfortable with that. And that's the process that we're going through here. So that about wraps it up for this individual. Thank you for joining me on the Spot. Again, my name is Christopher Taylor of MyAstroChris. You can contact me for your own On the Spot at myastrochris.com, or you can contact me through that same website for your own comprehensive reading. I do readings for individuals like this, for relationships, also organizations. So whatever your needs are, look at myastrochris.com, and I am happy to help. So till next time, thanks a lot.